In a world where maximum security prisons are designed to be impenetrable fortresses, the idea of even a single inmate escaping seems almost impossible. Yet, what unfolded on a seemingly ordinary morning left the world stunned. Over 6,000 prisoners escaped from one of the most heavily guarded prisons in the world. It was an event that defied logic, challenged the integrity of global security systems, and raised chilling questions about the vulnerability of institutions we once thought were foolproof. The prison in question had a reputation for being a place no one could leave, unless in a body bag. With towering concrete walls, electrified fences, dozens of watchtowers, and state-of-the-art surveillance systems, it was built to withstand not only escape attempts but also riots, terror attacks, and natural disasters. Housing some of the world's most dangerous criminals, murderers, drug lords, terrorists, and war criminals, the facility was considered a model of modern correctional architecture and security. Yet, in a matter of hours, all that confidence crumbled. Authorities reported that the escape was meticulously planned over several months, possibly even years. Early investigations suggested a combination of internal corruption, technological sabotage, and sheer inmate determination. Guards who were trusted with maintaining the peace were suspected of collaborating with the masterminds behind the escape. Surveillance footage mysteriously vanished or malfunctioned during critical hours. Backup systems, designed to activate in emergencies, failed without explanation. It was as if an invisible hand had disabled every line of defense at exactly the right moment. As news of the mass escape spread, panic rippled across the globe. Governments issued warnings, airports tightened security, and neighboring countries reinforced their borders. Families living near the prison were evacuated, and a full military lockdown was imposed within a 100-kilometer radius. The media descended upon the area, broadcasting live images of chaos, prison cells thrown open, guards overwhelmed, and helicopters hovering above empty courtyards. International agencies, including Interpol, were immediately brought in to assist with the manhunt. Within hours, hundreds of most wanted lists were updated, featuring newly escaped convicts who posed immediate threats to public safety. Fear gripped communities as rumors swirled, some claiming that entire criminal organizations had been unleashed back into the world, ready to resume their reign of terror. For security experts, this incident became an alarming case study overnight. How could such a fortified institution fall prey to such a massive breach? Had technology made us complacent, believing that cameras and alarms could replace human vigilance? Or was the real threat always from within, from corrupted insiders who could be bought, blackmailed, or coerced? The world was left with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, the escapees melted into the shadows, their tracks covered by months of preparation and widespread confusion. The prison, once a symbol of control and power, now stood as a monument to human fallibility and the unpredictable nature of desperation. The story of the 6,000 who broke free would not just be a headline, it would become a dark chapter in the history of criminal justice, one that would haunt governments, security agencies, and ordinary citizens for years to come. And so began one of the greatest manhunts the world has ever witnessed. The question on everyone's mind after the shocking mass escape was simple: how? How could 6,000 inmates, some of the most dangerous individuals alive, coordinate and execute such a massive breakout without being stopped? The answer, as investigators would soon uncover, was a terrifying blend of patience, planning, betrayal, and brute force. It all started with infiltration from the inside. Over months, perhaps even years, prisoners slowly identified guards and staff who could be manipulated. Some were bribed with vast sums of money, others were threatened into compliance. A few simply sympathized with the prisoners. These insiders played critical roles, disabling surveillance cameras, misdirecting patrols, and smuggling in tools necessary for the escape. Each small act of sabotage might have seemed insignificant at the time, but together, they dismantled the prison's security system piece by piece. Parallel to internal infiltration, the prisoners also worked relentlessly to create escape routes. Beneath the prison grounds, a network of tunnels had been secretly dug, a project requiring incredible patience, secrecy, and engineering skill. Using smuggled tools, stolen equipment, and even makeshift devices crafted inside the prison workshop, prisoners excavated the earth slowly and systematically. Some tunnels ran underneath the outer walls, others led to maintenance corridors and weak points in the foundation. Dirt was hidden in ceiling panels, walls, and false compartments built inside their cells, but the tunnels were only part of the plan. A crucial aspect was the coordinated distraction. On the day of the escape, prisoners staged a massive riot in one wing of the prison. Fires were set, alarms blared, and chaos erupted. Guards, overwhelmed and panicked, rushed to contain the violence, leaving other areas lightly monitored. Meanwhile, inmates in other sections executed their carefully rehearsed plan, moving swiftly through pre-dug tunnels, unlocked doors, and disabled security checkpoints. Technology, once considered the prison's greatest strength, became its Achilles heel. Investigators discovered that the central security system had been hacked days before the escape. Motion sensors, alarm triggers, and automated locks had all been reprogrammed to fail at critical moments. With the digital systems compromised and human guards distracted, the prisoners faced little resistance as they flooded out of the prison. Outside collaborators also played a key role. Vehicles waited at pre-arranged pickup points outside the prison grounds, hidden in nearby forests and abandoned warehouses. Some escapees were immediately whisked away across national borders using forged documents and secret smuggling routes. Others melted into the surrounding communities, aided by underground networks of criminals. One of the most chilling discoveries came later. The world watched in disbelief as news of the escape spread like wildfire. In an era where even minor prison breaches made headlines, the notion that 6,000 dangerous inmates had vanished overnight triggered global panic. Governments, law enforcement agencies, and intelligence communities scrambled to respond, realizing that the consequences of this mass breakout could ripple far beyond the prison walls. International reaction was swift and intense. Within hours, neighboring countries sealed their borders, deploying military forces, drones, and heavily armed patrol units. Airports and seaports went into high alert. Immigration controls were tightened to a level not seen since major terrorist threats. Every traveler, every shipment, and every vehicle crossing borders came under heavy scrutiny. Even countries far removed from the incident issued security warnings, fearing that high-profile criminals might attempt to flee overseas and restart their illicit operations. The United Nations convened an emergency meeting, calling the escape a global security crisis. Leaders from dozens of nations pledged resources to help recapture the fugitives. Interpol launched Operation Iron Net, one of the largest coordinated manhunts in history. Over 190 countries received updated red notices, international alerts for fugitives wanted for prosecution, featuring hundreds of names from the prison's roster, especially those considered major threats to global security, like organized crime bosses, terrorist leaders, and warlords. In major cities across the world, citizens were warned to stay alert. Posters with the faces of top escapees flooded streets, airports, and bus terminals. News channels broadcast constant updates, profiling notorious criminals who had vanished. Social media exploded with rumors, conspiracy theories, and frightening eyewitness accounts, many false but enough to fuel widespread fear. Meanwhile, the hunt on the ground intensified. Military checkpoints sprang up across the countryside near the prison. Special task forces, including elite units trained in counterterrorism and hostage recovery, were deployed. Heat-sensing drones scanned forests, abandoned buildings, and underground tunnels for signs of human activity. Helicopters patrolled the skies day and night, their searchlights piercing the darkness. Local law enforcement agencies were overwhelmed as they fielded thousands of tips from concerned citizens, many of which turned out to be dead ends. The task was overwhelming. Tracking thousands of fugitives required a level of coordination and manpower that stretched even the most advanced security forces to their limits. Some of the escapees were immediately captured, individuals who lacked the resources or connections to disappear effectively. Others were less fortunate, falling victim to harsh wilderness conditions or infighting among themselves. However, many of the most dangerous criminals had carefully orchestrated their disappearances, using fake identities, bribery, and well-established criminal networks to evade capture. The world watched as some high-profile recaptures were made. One infamous cartel leader was caught trying to cross a river disguised as a fisherman. A former mercenary commander was found hiding in a cargo ship bound for another continent. Each capture was celebrated as a small victory, but officials knew they were only scratching the surface. As days turned into weeks, the reality set in. A significant number of fugitives might never be caught. Governments quietly shifted their focus from recapture to mitigation, strengthening borders, monitoring known criminal associates, and reinforcing internal security to prevent the escapees from rebuilding their empires. Beyond the immediate hunt, the political fallout was severe. The prison's administrators were arrested and interrogated. Government officials resigned or were fired amid accusations of negligence and corruption. Worldwide, prison security protocols were reviewed and overhauled, with billions of dollars pledged toward preventing such a catastrophe from ever happening again. Public trust in the justice system suffered a massive blow. Citizens questioned how such a secure institution could collapse so completely. Protesters marched demanding accountability, reform, and transparency. The phrase, 6,000 gone, became a chilling symbol of governmental failure and public vulnerability. Ultimately, while many escapees were caught, the escape left an irreversible mark on global consciousness. It was a haunting reminder that no system, no matter how fortified, is immune to human error, corruption, and the sheer will of desperate individuals. The world would spend years dealing with the consequences, and some of the ghosts from that night would haunt society forever.